BackCreekDaddy Productions, and we're here with another interview for the BackCreekDaddy Presents Interviews segment. This will be our May interview, our fourth one in this series. And I'd like for you to meet our guest for this month. I want to let him introduce himself.
Okay. I'm Walton Stowell, aka Drogo Empedocles. That's my medieval / pen names / ghostwriter name, Appalachian Trail name, whatever, reenacting name. Let's see. My name, Walton Danforth Stowell, is my mundane name, and it comes from family last names. So Walton was a last name, Danforth was a last name, Stowell was a last name, and that was a tradition in our family on my dad's side from New England to take last names and put them as first names.
That was interesting. Yeah. So, where'd Drogo come from?
Let's see. Out of high school into college, I role-played Dungeons and Dragons, and I also did medieval reenacting with the SCA, Society for Creative Anachronism. And I wanted a Germanic-sounding name, so I chose Drogo, also from Tolkien. I'm a fan of Tolkien. And then Empedocles comes from the Greek philosopher who believed that all things are an intermingling of what has already come before. So he took other people's philosophies and balled them up and tried to make sense out of everybody's point of view.
So does most people call you Drogo now? Or?
I use Drogo as a nickname, again, with different artistic endeavors, and for a family, I'll just use Walton. For most things, I'll just sign as Walton, but sometimes I'll use Drogo. It just depends what the venue is.
So, well, you have some books on Amazon. You've written some books. Tell us a little bit about what you've got out there.
Okay. Well, the first one I wrote was with my father. Well, the first one I published was with my father in 2008, Harper's Ferry Houses. And I'm proud of that one, probably the most, because that was something my dad and I could actually do together. We were both architects, both from Harper's Ferry, and he actually was able to see that finished before he died in 2009. But I've always written books ever since I was a kid, and so now in the modern age, no names like me are able to be published, with online, Amazon.com, Kindle, so all these venues that we didn't have before. So you would spend, if you were a writer, most people know this, you spend years of your life submitting to publishing companies, one after the other, until you get hundreds of rejection letters, and you've still not gotten published. And so when I saw that, realized that's what happens, I said, that's bullshit,
Right.
So then I was like, you've got to, I think you should, if you want your stuff to get out there, try to self-publish now, because I think it's a great opportunity.
A lot of people gave up before this was available.
Yeah, and there's only a few people that can be, famous. The way that our market is set up is there's only a few bestsellers. So instead of trying to think, oh, I've got to be a bestseller, no. If you want your work out there, you just put it out there any way that you can. And it doesn't matter so much whether you're a bestseller, because the franchise, the market of booksellers is only going to limit that to a certain few. And it's like winning, are you going to win the lottery? Well, maybe, or so you're going to take your chances with trying to win the lottery, or, I don't know, that analogy doesn't quite work, but save, like the equivalent of self-publishing is, to me, like saving your money in a bank account, or saving your money on your mattress, or whatever. It's instead of like putting everything in the hopes of being famous, okay, if you want to be famous, fine, but is the point more to share with other people? And for me, it's sharing with other people and getting positive feedback. Negative feedback is easy. I think it's easy for me to be an asshole. So I think negativity comes easier also for most people because I think it takes less energy to be negative about something.
I believe you're right.
Okay, so I think the positive feedback is it's harder, but it's more worthwhile.
So,
You know,
an example of what type of stories do you write? Fantasy? What?
I write
Here's an example.
fantasy fiction, nonfiction. I'll write in any type of style.
So you write about
first person,
everything.
third person. Yeah, I like it
You
all.
just like to write.
I like it all, yeah.
Yeah.
But mostly fantasy and fiction.
But
That's
you also are into artwork.
I like to draw fantasy and fiction mostly, but for me, it's really fascinating when you can take something realistic and find the fantasy in it, or take something fantasy and find realism in it. And that's where you get the worlds to cross over, and that's, I think, the most fascinating and engaging for different audiences also.
That's an interesting way to put it. So, is there any of your artwork out there available? If somebody, where can they see it? First off, where can they see some of your artwork?
Well, online, like I said, online has opened up the venues and opened up the availability of people that would just, like me, that just wouldn't be able to share with as many people if we didn't have the internet. So I would say search my name, Walton Danforth Stowell, search Drogo Empedocles, and the interesting, well, I say go ahead and do that because, you know, the federal government looks us all up by name anyway, so I think, you know, why not just look up the person's name.
Right. And if they see something they like, is it available to purchase?
Yeah, right. And then so I try to balance it out or have both free and available stuff, because I like free stuff. You know,
Well, most everyone does.
right. So I like to have free stuff available that I can give people, or that they can just take from the internet. And then, yeah, it would be nice to be able to exist and you know, have some food, you know, occasionally, money to buy food or whatever.
So they can get your books on Amazon for the Kindle. Can they actually purchase the book also?
Yes, Amazon.com. You can buy paperbacks.
So you can get the paperbacks or Kindle version.
Yeah.
And if you want to see some of your artwork, punch up his name, check it out. If you see something there you'd like to purchase, get in touch with him.
Yeah, I just say look up the person's name if you're interested in, you know, or if you hear a title first, you know, go by that. But, you know, right, you know somebody does artwork, you know somebody writes books. Don't be afraid, just, you know, type in their name and then take some time and look at, they might have 100 different things under their name, you know, that nobody would know if there weren't that list on Google or whatever. You know, so that way it's easy, and that if I write a new book, well, that'll be updated. Rather than always publishing lists and trying to sell myself that way, I think it's easier just, now people can find you. So,
right.
Yeah. Just in that, it'll list out your stuff.
So you're also involved in aren't you involved in a website about going green?
Right, I
Would you like to
developed...
talk about that there for a minute?
Okay, I developed an architectural thesis called Sustainable Cooperative for Organic Development. And what that means is you take clients and so a group of people want to create a sustainable community or intentional commune. And if you have different values or different beliefs and different interests, then you know, despite social taboos, you know, related to communism and all that from the Red Scare, I'm just saying this is old school, like medieval, where you have a village and you have people getting together to do things, and it's more self-reliant than our modern society. So you grow your own, you try to grow your own food as much as possible. You try to build your own places as much as possible. Maintain your own structures as much as possible. And so you have your own self-reliant community. I say self-reliant. Nothing is going to be entirely self-reliant, but as much as possible. And then from that, you network. That's how, when Rome fell, that's how medieval villages survived, is they tried to be somewhat self-sufficient, but then you could also, then the merchant class came out of that, and so some people would go between the towns. So you have some interaction between different pockets of communities, but still, I think it's better to be, as self-reliant as possible, so that if the grid shuts down, when you have blackouts you're not as subject to the whims of the system. So, electric grid, all the major companies that pull the strings.
So if anyone's interested, where do they find this? Where do they look up?
SCOD, SCOD, Sustainable Cooperative for Organic Development. It's online.
There you go. Check that out if you're interested. So, did you have any inspirations as a child growing up? Who inspired you to get into writing or the artworks, or was there someone that inspired all of this? That got you to where you're at today?
Yeah, my father and mother, Kip Stowell and Nina Stowell. And actually, they had different names too. Just like I have two names, they had two names also. And my father was Walton Danforth Stowell Sr. And then my mother was Evelina Manussi I don't even say, I never use her name. Mary Evelina Manussi was her name. And they're both artists and into the arts, and education is a big one.
Well, it seems like they really inspired a lot in you.
So I'm a product of two artists. That's what happens.
And your wife also is a writer, I understand?
Right. Noelle Tavano is a writer of a vampire series, and she is a librarian in Maryland.
That is awesome. That's awesome. I mean, here's a guy who writes books. His wife writes books. He sketches, paints. He's a historian. And pretty much if you ask him anything about Harper's Ferry, I learned some things here before the interview myself, even though I've been to Harper's Ferry many times. So it's been a great interview. And if anybody wants to get in touch with this guy, look him up on Facebook by either name. And check out his artwork, check out his books on Amazon. And I'm sure you'd like to hear from the public.
For me, growing up, like I said, I've done this my whole life, write, draw. It was to share with other people. Like when I went to Italy,
Go right ahead.
But when I went to Italy in first grade, I would draw the sculptures, and I would draw from the paintings I saw in the galleries in Italy. And for me, that was fun. But then the next level was hearing people around me going, "Oh, look, he's drawing," and that it was like a social positive feedback. They didn't say, "Oh, that's a kid's drawing, that's terrible." No, they said, "That's nice," and that encouraged me to continue. That for me, that's what it's all about.
And that's great, because BackCreekDaddy Productions is constantly saying, support your local talent, even if it's just telling them how good their drawing is or how good their story is. Just positive, and it brings out a lot.
Because I say negative feedback is so easy, because I do it to myself. I don't need somebody else. Yeah, I don't need somebody else telling me something's a piece of shit.
Right, because that's easy for people to do.
It's easy. You can say it to yourself.
There's a lot of local talent out there, and right here's a perfect example. Give him some positive feedback. Check his stuff out, and you might like what you see. And we also have a section on BackCreekDaddy Production page of some of his artwork, so you can stop by there and check it out. While you're there, become a fan.
Thanks.
It's been good, Drogo. I hope everybody enjoys this. Like I said, it was a nice interview.
Thank you.
There he is.